They called her the Storm of Blades. She had no name, no smile, no past. She was a living weapon, trained to kill without feeling. Her eyes were cold, her armor black as the space around her. When she moved, even her own people stepped aside. Afraid she had ended wars, burned cities, and silenced rebellions with one order. And now, she had a new mission: hunt and destroy a group of escaped human prisoners hiding on a ruined planet. Vraxen 7's commanders trusted her more than machines because she never failed. Never hesitated, never questioned orders. She stepped out of the dropship onto the dead planet's surface. Ash fell like snow. The air smelled of burned metal and broken lives. The ruins were silent, but her scanner showed movement ahead. The humans were hiding inside an old bunker, easy prey. She walked through the broken stone doors, boots crushing dust and bones. Inside there were signs of life. She raised her blade, ready to strike. But then she saw him. A single human stood there. Not running, not hiding. He looked at her with calm eyes, tired but unafraid. He was unarmed, covered in dirt, but his gaze was steady. She pointed her weapon at his chest, heart cold as ice. Kill target, her mind said as always, but her body didn't move. Then, he did something no one had ever done to her before. He smiled just a little and whispered two strange words. "You're gorgeous." Her hand shook just a little. Her heart made a strange sound, a beat. She had never felt it before. She stared at him, confused. Was it a trick? A trap? A delay tactic? But he did not move, did not flinch. He just looked at her like she was more than a killer. Like she was a person. No one had ever done that before. Not her masters, not her squad, not even herself. Her mind screamed, "End him." But her blade dropped an inch. She stepped back, heart pounding like a broken drum. Why was she sweating? Why was her chest tight? She had faced death hundreds of times, but never like this. Behind her, voices crackled through her comms. "Storm leader." "Report status," her commander barked. She had to answer, had to follow orders, but instead, she turned and looked at the human again. "Hide," she whispered, voice low and sharp. His eyes widened, but he nodded and slipped into the shadows. She stepped outside, locking the door behind her. "Target neutralized," she lied into the comms. "Good," the voice said. "Return to base." She walked back to her ship, but her steps were slow, unsure. Inside her, something strange had begun. A feeling, a thought, a question. Why had he said those words? Why did they echo in her head like music? That night she couldn't sleep. She sat alone in the dark, thinking of his voice. "You're gorgeous," she had heard insults, commands, screams, but never that. She looked at her reflection in the steel wall. Sharp angles, battle scars, cold eyes. Was that what gorgeous meant to him? Or did he see something deeper? Something she didn't know she had? The next morning she told her team she needed to double-check the site. She returned to the bunker alone. She entered slowly, heart racing. He was still there, waiting. "You came back," he said softly. She nodded, silent. He smiled again, this time brighter. She didn't know why, but it made her feel warm. "I don't understand," she said. Voice rough. "Why did you say that word?" He looked at her with kind eyes. "Because it's true," he said. "You looked strong, fierce, powerful, like a storm, but not empty. Not evil." She blinked, not knowing what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever looked past the armor. He did, and for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a weapon. She felt like a person, but danger was coming. A drone had spotted energy spikes near the ruins. She had only minutes before her squad returned to check. Her heart raced, but not with fear. She looked at the human. She had a choice. Let him die or protect him. And for some reason she couldn't explain. She already knew her answer. She had broken the first rule. A warrior must never lie to the Vraxen command. But she had done it. For one human who whispered something no one else ever dared to. Now she stood alone in the ruins, the wind hissing through the broken walls. Her armor felt heavier, her chest tighter. What had she done? The human was still alive, hidden deep inside the tunnels below. She had told her commanders he was dead. Mission complete. But the way he had looked at her, the way he had said those strange, soft words, something inside her had changed. She didn't want to kill him, not anymore. She wanted to understand why his voice still echoed in her mind. Back at the outpost, her squad asked no questions. They trusted her, feared her, respected her silence. But something was different now. She noticed details. How they looked at her. How quickly they moved away when she passed. She had always liked being feared. Now it felt cold that night. She couldn't rest. She kept hearing his voice. "You're gorgeous." The word made no sense in her world. Her people didn't talk about beauty, didn't believe in kindness. They were made to conquer, not feel, so why did it matter so much? Why did her fingers tremble when she thought of his eyes? She returned to the ruins the next morning, told her squad she was going for a final scan. No one questioned her, not yet. She went deeper this time, past the burned halls and shattered doors until she reached the hidden chamber. He was still there, sitting by a broken light. He looked surprised but glad to see her. "I thought you wouldn't come back," he said, voice low. "I had to," she replied, unsure why her voice cracked at the end. He offered her food, human rations, dry, tasteless but warm. She sat beside him, helmet off, her face exposed to the cold air. "Why did you lie to your people?" he asked gently. She didn't answer at first. Then she whispered, "I don't know, but it wasn't true." She did know, she just couldn't say it yet. He didn't push, didn't demand, he just smiled, as if her silence was enough. Then he began to talk. Not about war or tactics, but about simple things. About rain on earth, the taste of fruit, music in the streets, things she had never known. He even showed her a small device, an old recording. A woman's voice sang a soft song. She closed her eyes, letting the sound wrap around her like warmth. Her chest ached, not from pain, but from something gentler, something dangerous. "You feel it too," he said. Watching her carefully, she opened her eyes, looked away. "I am not supposed to," she replied. "Then don't be what they made you," he said softly. She wanted to ask him how, but her comms suddenly beeped, an alert, urgent and cold. Unidentified energy spike detected in Sector 9. All warriors respond. Her heart froze. That was here, right above them. The scan drones had picked up their energy signature. If her squad came down now, they would find him, and she would be forced to kill him or be killed herself. She stood up fast, heart racing. "I have to go," she said, voice sharp. He grabbed her hand, not to stop her, but to hold it. "Will you come back?" he asked. She stared at their hands, hers cold and armored. His warm and bare. "I don't know," she whispered. Pulling away, she raced through the tunnels. Back to the surface, her squad had already landed. Scanning devices glowing red, they had seen the signal. Her commander stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "Storm, report." "False reading." She lied again, heart pounding. "A reactor core leaking heat from the wreckage below." He looked at her, doubtful. "We'll scan anyway," he said. Walking toward the entrance, she blocked the path without thinking. "No need," she said, voice harder than steel. He stared at her, stunned. "You question the scan?" he asked coldly. "I question the time we waste chasing shadows," she replied. The silence was sharp. Then he nodded slowly, stepping back. "For now," he said, "but if the signal repeats, we search." She nodded, hiding the storm inside her. As the ship lifted off again, she stared down at the ruins below. The secret she now carried wasn't just forbidden, it was alive, and every beat of her heart screamed that it was worth protecting. But lies couldn't stay hidden forever. She used to be a perfect soldier. Now she was a perfect liar. The warrior known as Storm of Blades had broken her oath. She had protected a human, lied to her squad, and blocked her own commander, and yet, something inside her whispered, "You did the right thing." But right and wrong had no meaning in the Vraxan Empire. Only one rule mattered: obey or die. She sat alone in her chamber, armor beside her, blades sharpened to perfection, but her mind was elsewhere, back in the ruins, where he waited. The human with soft eyes and dangerous words. "You're gorgeous," he had said, and everything inside her had shifted. The next morning the alert came, energy spike confirmed. "Movement detected," the voice on the comm said. "Prepare to clear the ruins, no survivors." Her heart stopped. They were going to search the entire area now. No more delays, no more lies. She had minutes to decide. Follow orders or save him again. She chose without warning. She grabbed her weapons, stormed past her squad, and raced toward the ruins. "Storm, what are you doing?" The commander shouted through the comm. She ignored it. She had no words for what she felt. Only instinct, only fire. She reached the hidden chamber, breath heavy. The human looked up, surprised. "They're coming," she said, grabbing his arm. "We need to run." "But where?" he asked, panic in his voice. Too late. Footsteps echoed through the tunnels. Sharp and fast, her squad had arrived. She pushed the human behind a steel column, then turned and faced the hallway. Her own people appeared, blades drawn, eyes ready to kill. They didn't expect her to stand in their way. "Move," her second-in-command ordered. She didn't, I said. Move, he shouted again. Stepping forward, she whispered one last word. Forgive me. Then she struck. Blades flashed, blood sprayed, screams filled the stone walls. She fought like lightning, like fury, like the storm she was named after. But this time, it wasn't for glory, it was for him, her own brothers, sisters, teammates. She cut them down with shaking hands. They fought back, confused and angry, but she was better, faster, more desperate. When it was over, 5 bodies lay broken around her. She stood in the center, blood on her face, her eyes full of something new, shame. The human stepped out slowly. He looked around in horror. You didn't have to do this, he said quietly. I did, she replied, breathing hard. They would have killed you, and I... She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. He didn't speak, just stared at her. Then he did something strange. He reached out, gently touched her shoulder. It burned like light, soft but powerful. She flinched, but didn't pull away. No one had ever touched her without fear or hate before. You saved me, he whispered. No one ever has, she turned away ashamed. I killed my own people, she said, her voice breaking. They'll hunt me now. Then we run, he said. She looked at him surprised. You still trust me? You had a choice, he said, and you chose me. That means something. They found an old Vraxan scout ship hidden in a lower chamber. Damaged, half buried in stone, but still able to fly. She activated it with her access code. Fingers trembling. The engines groaned to life. Lights blinking red, the moment they lifted off. Her comm crackled again. Storm of blades. You are under arrest for murder, betrayal, and treason. Surrender or be destroyed. She didn't answer. She only looked at the stars ahead and said one word. No, they broke atmosphere. The planet shrinking behind them, but the war was just beginning. Now she wasn't just a soldier, she was a fugitive. A Vraxan warrior who had spilled her own people's blood for a single human. But deep inside, she felt something strange, something almost like peace. Because for the first time in her life, she had chosen her own path, and he had chosen to walk it with her. The stars looked peaceful, but peace was a lie. Inside the stolen Vraxan scout ship, the fugitive warrior sat in silence beside her. The human she had saved watched the stars pass by through the glass. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The quiet between them was heavy, not with fear, but with things they didn't know how to say. She had killed her own squad to protect him. He had trusted a creature designed to destroy his kind now. They were both running from an empire that showed no mercy. She checked the ship's systems, fuel low, weapons damaged, location exposed. They couldn't run forever. The comm system beeped again, another message from Vraxan Command. Storm of blades, last warning, surrender immediately. Your death will be quick, she turned off the signal. Jaw clenched. They won't stop, she said. Voice rough, they never do. He replied softly. They needed a place to hide, a moon, a rock, anything. She scanned for a quiet world, something with shelter but no eyes. Her screen flashed with a name, Muriel 9, a silver moon wrapped in clouds. Forgotten by most, perfect for ghosts like them. The ship landed hard on cracked white stone. Engines whining as they stepped out, the ground crunched beneath their boots. A cold wind brushed against her face, no cities. No life, just silence and space dust, but silence could be safe for now. They found a cave near the edge of a cliff. Inside it was dark, dry, and quiet. He lit a small flame, the glow dancing across the rocky walls. She sat across from him, still wearing parts of her armor. Her hands were stained with the past, but her eyes held questions about the future. Do you think they'll find us here? He asked. They're already looking, she said. They'll send the best. He looked up confused. Weren't you the best? She gave a sad smile. I was, she said, but now, I'm something else. They sat in silence again, the fire crackling softly. He pulled a small device from his jacket, a music chip. He played a gentle song. Human notes floating in the air. She closed her eyes, letting it wash over her like water. She had heard screams. Alarms, explosions, but never music. And it hurt, in a way that felt good. Why did you really save me? He asked, voice low. She opened her eyes slowly. I don't know, she whispered. But when you said those words, something woke up. You're gorgeous, he repeated. Smiling, she didn't smile back, but her face softened. I've never been called that, she said. Not once, you should have been, he replied. You're more than they made you. Before she could answer, a red light blinked on her wrist device. Her body froze. "They're here," she said. Outside the cave, the clouds turned black. A Vraxan elite hunter ship broke through the sky like a blade. It hovered above the ground. "Scanners searching." She grabbed her blade, motioning for him to stay down. "What will you do?" He asked. "What I must," she said. She stepped out into the open, heart pounding. 3 Vraxan hunters dropped from the ship. Silent and fast, they recognized her instantly. "Storm," one hissed. "Surrender the human. Or we burn you both," she raised her weapon. "No," she said. "He's not yours." They attacked without mercy, blades flashing in the fading light. She moved like fire, blocking, striking, dodging. But they were trained like her, fast, brutal, unforgiving. One hit her side. Another cut her shoulder. She cried out, falling to one knee. The 3rd hunter raised a blaster to finish her, but then a rock hit the hunter's head. He turned in surprise, just in time for the human to slam into him from behind. The shot missed, burning a hole in the cave wall. The human grabbed the blaster and tossed it away. "Run!" she shouted. But he didn't. He stayed beside her, helping her stand. "Why didn't you run?" she asked through gritted teeth. "Because you didn't," he said. Together they fought. Side by side, blade and heart, strength and spirit. They defeated the hunters, barely. She stood over the last one, chest heaving, hands shaking. Then she looked at the human, bloody. "Bruised but alive, you saved me," she whispered. "We save each other now," he said. Above them, the hunter ship retreated, reporting failure, but more would come. She knew this was only the beginning. They were no longer just fugitives, they were a threat. A soldier and a human together, something the Vraxan Empire could not allow. The cave was quiet, but her mind was loud. Outside, the stars blinked like cold eyes watching them. Inside, a fire crackled between them, soft and warm. The warrior sat against the stone wall, wounded but silent. The human sat across from her, wrapping a cloth around her arm. His hands gentle, careful, human. She had faced 1,000 battles, but this closeness felt like the real danger. He touched her skin without fear. He didn't flinch at her scars, didn't pull away from her sharp edges, and she didn't stop him. She should have, but she didn't want to. "Does it hurt?" he asked softly, tying the cloth tighter. She nodded. Not from the wound, but from something deeper. He sat back, wiping sweat from his brow. "Not bad for someone who failed medical school," he joked. Smiling, she didn't understand the joke, but the way his lips curved made her chest ache. "Why do you smile so much?" she asked. He blinked, surprised. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe because you don't," she looked away. Not sure how to answer that. Her people didn't smile. Not even children. Smiling was weakness. Emotion was weakness, and yet, when he smiled, it felt like warmth in her frozen chest. She glanced down at her hand, resting on her knee, blood-stained, armored. Still shaking a little, then she looked at his, open and soft beside the fire. Without thinking, she reached out slowly, carefully. Like touching a star for the first time, their fingers met just barely. The heat of his skin moved through her like lightning. Her heart stuttered, her breath caught. He didn't move, didn't speak. Just let her hand rest over his. And for a moment, one brief, perfect moment, she wasn't a weapon. She was a woman, a living thing, not a machine. "I've never done this before," she whispered. "Touched someone like this?" He looked into her eyes. "No fear, no pity, only truth." "Then we learn together," he said. Outside, wind howled against the rocks, but the sound couldn't reach them here. They sat like that for a long time, holding hands in the shadows. 2 enemies, now something else. Something unnamed, something fragile. Later, she removed part of her armor, revealing more of the skin beneath. Scars, burns, cuts from battles long forgotten. She felt exposed, raw, nervous. But he didn't stare, didn't judge. He reached out again, this time to trace a line across her shoulder. "Each one of these has a story," he said. "Yes," she replied. "But none of them matter now." She leaned her head back against the wall. "Tell me about Earth," she said quietly. So he did. He told her about green fields and soft rain, about birds singing in the morning, about cities full of lights and noise and laughter, about beaches where waves touched your toes and stars reflected in the ocean, about sunsets that made people stop and just breathe. She listened like a child, wide-eyed, imagining things she had never seen. No one had ever painted pictures for her with words. No one had ever given her anything that wasn't an order or a wound. He asked her what her world was like. She hesitated, then answered. "Metal," she said. And silence. No colors, no rest, no dreams, only war. He looked at her. Sadness in his eyes. You deserve more, he said. She closed her eyes. I don't even know what more looks like. He gently squeezed her hand. Then I'll show you, he whispered. She opened her eyes again, staring at their hands still joined. It was such a small thing, but it felt like everything for the first time. She felt alive, not just functioning. I should not feel this, she said. But I do. He leaned forward slowly, letting her stop him if she wanted to. She didn't. He rested his forehead against hers. No kiss, no rush, just quiet closeness. Her eyes fluttered shut. No one had ever touched her like that, not with need, but with respect, not to take, but to give. She whispered again, Why me? He smiled against her skin. Because when you took off your mask, he said, you showed me something beautiful. A sudden beeping cut through the moment. Her wrist device blinking red. She pulled away, checking it fast. Her face turned hard again. What is it? He asked, already knowing the answer. They've found us again, she said, standing up. But this time, they're not sending hunters. She stared at the screen, heart sinking. They're sending bombers. The warning light glowed red on her wrist. Her heart beat like a war drum. The Varaxan Empire was done sending hunters. Now they were sending bombers, high above the silver moon. Dark ships moved like shadows across the stars. Each one carried fire. Each one had one mission: erase the traitor and the human who changed her. She looked at him, standing by the cave wall, eyes wide, breathing fast. Go deeper, she said. Hide in the tunnels. Don't come out. What about you? He asked, voice shaking. She strapped her armor back on. Piece by piece, each click a promise, each blade a goodbye. I'm going to stop them, she said. He moved closer, grabbed her arm. You'll die, she looked at him, eyes steady. If I don't go, she whispered. We both will. He wanted to argue, to stop her, to beg her not to go. But he saw something in her face, something final. This wasn't a mission. This was her choice. Her first and maybe last. She touched his cheek gently. Her fingers cold but soft. Thank you, she whispered, for showing me the stars. Then she turned, walked out of the cave and into the dying wind. The ground trembled as the first bomber appeared in the sky. It was shaped like a winged blade, glowing with red fire. She ran across the rocky field, moving fast, heart steady. She knew this fight wasn't fair, but she didn't care. She reached the edge of the cliff, where the old defense turret stood buried in dust. One last weapon, forgotten and rusted, she pulled the cover off, slammed her hand into the control panel. The turret hummed, lights blinking weakly. She whispered an old code, a war command from long ago. The machine woke up above her. The bomber prepared to strike. She raised the turret, aimed it at the sky and fired. The blast tore through the clouds, hitting one of the engines. The bomber shook, fire blooming from its wing. It didn't crash, but it turned, damaged, retreating. She smiled just for a second. Then a second bomber came. This one fired first. The blast hit the rocks behind her, throwing her forward. She rolled, coughed, blood in her mouth. But she stood up again. She was not done. She fired the turret again, 1, 2, 3 shots. The second bomber spun out of control, falling behind the hills. But now a third came, and a fourth. The sky rained death. She kept shooting. Even when her arm bled, even when her armor cracked, she screamed into the wind, not from pain, but from power, from choice, from rage. But then, a sound broke through her focus. Her turret whined, out of power, out of ammo, out of time. She looked up as the next bomber locked onto her. The target laser burned red on her chest. She closed her eyes and smiled. She thought of his voice, his hand, his promise. That one day she'd see Earth. That one day she could just breathe. Then came the light, a flash like the sun falling. The bomb hit. Dust rose for miles. Rock shattered, silence followed. From deep inside the tunnels, the human cried out. He ran toward the blast, coughing through smoke. Stumbling over broken ground, he reached the crater. Eyes searching, heart breaking. Then he saw her lying at the center. Armor cracked, blood everywhere. He dropped to his knees beside her. No, he whispered. Please no. Her eyes opened slowly. Barely she looked at him and smiled again. You lived, she whispered. He grabbed her hand, holding it tight. You saved me, he said, his voice shaking. You were worth saving, she breathed. Her voice was weak, fading. But you can't die, he said. Not now. Not after everything. She looked at him with tired eyes. But full of peace I never lived, she said. Not until you. He held her close, refusing to let go. You're not done, he whispered. You hear me? You're not done. From above, a new light appeared. A shadow falling fast, a rescue ship, not Vraxan, but human. The ship landed fast, medics rushing out. He screamed for them to help her. They lifted her carefully, tubes and lights flashing. She faded into sleep as machines kept her heart beating, but her lips moved one last time. Don't let go, I won't, he whispered. Not ever. The room was bright, too bright for her eyes. Soft beeps echoed in the air. Smooth walls around her, white and clean. She was not in the cave, not on the battlefield. Not under the stars. She was alive. Machines were connected to her chest, her arm, her side. Her body ached with every breath. But pain meant she was still here. She turned her head slowly, groaning under her breath. And then she saw him, the human. Asleep in the chair beside her, head resting on his arm. His hand still holding hers like he never let go. She stared at him, quiet, her heart pulling tight in her chest. He had stayed. He had believed. He had fought for her when she had nothing left. A small sound escaped her lips. Dry and cracked, his eyes opened immediately, like he had been waiting for that moment. You're awake, he whispered. Tears already in his eyes, she tried to speak. But her voice was too weak. Don't try to talk, he said gently. You're safe now, he squeezed her hand. Warm and real. I told them everything, he said. The resistance, the peace team, the medics, everyone. They know what you did. She blinked slowly. Still unsure what that meant. What did I do? She finally whispered. He leaned closer, voice soft like a secret. You changed. She turned her face away. I killed my own kind, she said. There's no forgiveness for that. He shook his head. No, you chose your own path, he said. That's what makes you alive. She stared at the ceiling. She remembered the moment, the blast. The silence, his arms around her. I thought I died, she said. You almost did, he replied, voice cracking. But you didn't. He smiled through the tears. Because you promised. Her mind went quiet. Yes, she had promised. She had said she wouldn't let go. He hadn't either. The door opened quietly, and a human doctor stepped in, nodding at them both. She'll recover, he said. Though her body's been through more than we've ever seen. She looked down at her arms, still covered in faded scars. But this time they didn't feel ugly. They felt earned. The doctor left, and the silence returned. But it was no longer heavy, no longer cold. He reached into his jacket and pulled something out. A small data crystal. What is that? She asked. Something I saved for you, he said. Placing it in her hand, she looked at it confused. It's Earth, he said, smiling. Images, music. Places I told you about. For when you're strong enough to come with me. She blinked. A strange wetness in her eyes. She had never cried before. Not once in her entire life, but now, something warm spilled down her cheek. He brushed the tear gently with his thumb. You don't have to fight anymore, he said. She closed her eyes, letting the words soak into her soul. She had fought since she was a child. Trained to kill, ordered to obey, but now she could rest. Do I still look like a weapon to you? She whispered. He leaned closer. Forehead touching hers like before. No, he said. You look like a person. You look like you. Her fingers curled around his hand again, just like that first time in the cave. This time there was no fear, no question, only trust. Weeks passed, and she grew stronger. She walked again, step by step. Learning how to move without rage, he stayed by her side. Telling her stories, laughing with her, listening every day. She learned something new. About him, about herself. About the heart she had buried deep inside for so long. One evening they stood under a glass dome on the space station. Looking out at the stars side by side, he pointed at a small blue planet in the distance. Earth, he said, smiling. Almost home. She looked at the planet, eyes full of light, not fear, not orders. Not blood, just hope. He took her hand again. And this time, she smiled first, and as they stood there together, the warrior whispered something into the quiet air, something she had never said before, not even once, thank you.